We've been joined now by my special guest wife, Shannon. Well, Shannon, the boss, finally, we have you.
Boss Tweed.
We have you right where I want Gene to be. Let me ask you, straight off the top.
Yeah.
He, when you met him, was one of the biggest rock stars in the world.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but yes.
Would it have mattered if he was a plumber?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have dated him.
I asked her, Shannon, if I didn't make a good living, and I'm going to try not to exaggerate, if I didn't make a good living, would you be with me? And she said,
No.
See ya!
But you must have known when you met him, I guess, his reputation.
I did not. But by the way, no, I.
Where did you meet him?
I grew up listening at the Playboy Mansion.
Really?
It was a party. He came in with two, I don't know, girls. And someone suggested, a producer friend of mine, that I go over and meet him. My sister was like, come on, let's go meet him. And I said, I don't know who that is. He looks kind of a little smarmy to me. And so I went over to meet him, and, you know, we got to talking, and we had a lot in common, actually. But the next day, since there's no cell phones or internet and so on, we ran down to Tower Records to look him up to make sure it was real, because I didn't believe a word he said.
You saw an entire section.
Yeah.
It was Kiss This and Kiss.
Yeah.
When you realised he
But
was
I'd never
really...
listened to that music before. I was Motown girl.
She just loves Tom Jones.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What was it that made you fall in love with him?
It's smart. And
That's it.
smart and rich. No, I'm kidding. Smart. And he's very romantic, actually. And did you make him cry yet? He cries.
Yeah, he did get,
I like
get
that.
emotional, yeah.
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 I like that.
I was surprised, yeah.
Is a really bad boyfriend, but very good husband.
Well, that's interesting. It almost is like your relationship is two halves.
Yeah.
Up to
Well,
when?
it took 28 years for him to grow up.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I waited.
Oh, my God.
Why did you wait? Many would have gone.
I know. And a lot of people, like, once your husband cheats on you once, they ditch. And
What about when it's 5,000 times?
There's more. Well, there's more to him than that.
Yeah.
There's.
And he's admitted this. He said that there's two Gene Simmons.
Believe me, I've heard it. Huh?
Yeah. And do you believe that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, it's hard when now that I have a young man as a child, I know that, you know, when a girl comes to your door wearing a raincoat with nothing under it, you don't just go bye-bye. So I understand that it happened and meant almost nothing.
I've got a picture of you on your wedding day.
Ah.
Now, this took a long time, Gene, for you to persuade Shannon to get down the aisle. What do you both remember of that day?
I have to tell you that I never wanted to get married, and I never had kids. At least consciously, I didn't want to become my father. My father,
Right.
But he didn't know he was his father
as far as I
the whole
knew.
time.
Really? You think that?
Yes.
My father.
In what way, Shannon?
Because his father was a philanderer, and that's why his mother left him. And so, but he was a philanderer, and he came by it honestly. And but you can't. I mean, I don't know how can you blame a musician when the girls are just knocking on your door and they're naked when you open it up? You say, what do you say?
I didn't want to have kids because I didn't want kids feeling what I felt. The world ended. I felt like I felt guilty. What did I do wrong that made my father get up and leave without explaining anything? So
And yet.
Am I doing okay?
She's not letting you get away with a thing here.
No, you're not getting off the hook in this one.
But am I doing okay?
Well, let me ask you a different question,
You're doing
Gene.
okay
Gene,
now.
what would you say to your son, for example, or your daughter, if they ask you about these stories where you've given interviews and
we've
talked
had
about having thousands of groupies and so on?
we've had
What do you
that.
say to your kids if they ask those questions?
At some point, you got to grow up. I don't know what to say except that there's no. Look at that.
He said.
That's Nick.
He said it was fun, but it's over now.
Wow.
Do you believe it is, Shannon?
I didn't.
Definitely over now.
Oh, yeah. I cut off my schmeckle and put it in
I will.
a formaldehyde, or she will put it in a formaldehyde thing, put it on the
Pickle
fireplace.
jar.
In a pickle jar.
You see, I get what the thing is with you two. It's humour, right?
It is.
I mean, ultimately,
you
it's
really
humour.
Can't. I mean, I could probably wallow in sorrow for a long time, but I mean,
Has he broadly, though, made you happier than not?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
And when you say he's romantic, how does that manifest itself? What's the most romantic thing he's done for you?
Oh my gosh.
I gave you some cash yesterday.
Do you know what he really does? Just give me wads of cash.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite romantic, actually.
I told him, did you sell any guitars today? He's, yes. I go,
Yeah.
and the cash.
And when
comes
she
out.
gets the watch, it goes like this.
Gene, what does true love mean to you?
Romantic, the part though. He did do the flower petals.
Really?
Yeah.
So what does true love mean to you, Gene? Because obviously you found it with Shannon, but what does it mean to you?
Shamefully, I never confronted myself about that and barely said I love you to my mother.
Yeah.
Shockingly,
Really?
shamefully, I was always alone.
He thought it was a weakness.
Have you said it to Shannon?
Yes. Yes. It happened
Can you
much later.
shut
in
up
li-
now?
It happened much later. I was afraid of
Being weak.
being weak
Vulnerable.
I never opened myself up to that. I always, it's hard, the knight in shining armor thing, at least you have protection around you. And I never wanted to be hurt ever again. Like, now she's about to say,
No.
what can I say? There's no school for life, and there's no school that says, okay, this is what marriage is, this is what a relationship
Listen, we were both
is.
learning as we went along.
What
I
have
was
you-
also young when I met him too.
Right. What have you really learned about yourself, Gene? When you look back at your life.
I learned that I'm not so bad after all.
Shannon, would you agree?
I would. Yeah, I would say it's not so bad after all.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to, if it was going to be, I'd been in only 2 other relationships of any kind. Never wanted a
Sort
relationship.
of. You weren't faithful to them either.
Well, one was Cher, famously,
And Diana.
and Diana Ross, who you were with before
he
you
was
met
still
Shannon.
philandering at the same time.
He was?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
With me.
Shannon, I mean, you've got to admit, going Cher, Diana Ross,
Right.
you.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Well, that's not
Hey,
fair.
well, what, older women with children than me?
Oh, stop it.
That's fine.
Let me finish, Jim, but I want to show you again the picture of you and your mum when you're 8 years old. Because I think that she's obviously been this constant presence throughout everything in your life and really formed, I think, a lot of your life.
Yeah.
When you look at yourself there, what do you see in that little boy? What was he hoping to be, do you think?
Oh, just always being a big dreamer.
You
and-
wanted to make her proud.
Yes, anything I wanted to do was always about my mother and
You never drank or took drugs because of her?
I believe our children are the same way.
yes,
by the
no,
way.
oh, absolutely.
Wanting to make him.
And do you think you did make her proud? Did she tell you that?
Yes. She, my mother,
She had a shrine to him in her
had
house. It
shrines
said,
all over the
"Welcome
house."
home to my favorite son." It
she
was
al-
up year round.
but my favorite son, she only had one son. But
What was she proudest of, do you think, of all the things you achieved?
no drugs, no alcohol, no smoking, be straight. She didn't approve of the stupid stuff she kept telling me about. Don't do that to Shannon. But I want to say that my mother was bizarrely my biggest fan. When we'd land in New York on the way to someplace else, my mother would be behind a pillar. I'm not exaggerating.
Watching you deplane.
Just waving.
Yes.
Chaim, that's my Hebrew name.
Yeah.
Chaim Kam, which is Hungarian, my Chaim, my life. She'd wave and go back behind the pillar just.
And she would stand on the
Just to see me.
chairs at the concert.
She would be
Like
on the
this.
chairs on the concert.
Amazing.
And she would,
And do you feel, Gene,
Fantastic.
fundamentally, when you look back over everything you've achieved and had and everything, family, professional, do you feel an enormous sense of gratitude to your mother? Because without her, it's highly unlikely that journey would have happened.
nothing would have happened, and which is why mothers are the most important life form on the face of the planet. Without your mother, Piers, you wouldn't have become who you became.
I totally agree.
All our mothers, our fathers mean well and so on, but there's only one person who gave you life, and that's your mother, and that's forever. By the way, I did a paper in college about the end of life as we know it for bad guys who are on death row and so on. The one word that keeps coming up, or the phrase that keeps coming up, is apologies to their mother before they go to death.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Gene, it's been brilliant. I'm so glad we did a much bigger interview. Shannon, great to have you, adding some stardust at the end. Thank you both very much indeed.